So South Africa, settled by Dutch. The Dutch East India Company landed and started its trade center in Cape Town. And the Dutch settlers called themselves Afrikaners and settled. The Johannesburg is a cultural and also location of the mines, and so Johannesburg is a very important city. But today, Johannesburg has pretty much, there's a corridor of growth that's going to all the way to Cape Town pretty much. And so we call that a conurbation, when two big urban centers grow in a corridor and become one big urban center. So that's really what's happening in South Africa. And again, South Africa is the key state in the realm and in Southern Africa, the region. So lots of universities, lots of business, lots of infrastructure, lots of everything, lots of people. And yet, the human tragedy of apartheid occurred there. Apartheid really was a government, again, the Dutch were ruling South Africa, and the local people and other migrants that came there, there was a policy of segregation where coloreds or people of color were put in one neighborhood, and one tribe would be in another neighborhood, another tribe in another neighborhood. They couldn't even cross the boundaries. Not only not allowed in buses and bathrooms and that kind of thing, but not even allowed to be on the street in places they weren't allowed. So this was extreme segregation in South Africa until a president was elected. I think you know who it is, Nelson Mandela, 1994. So the whole world, and this was after the 60s, and this was after what happened in the United States with civil rights. This did happen here. And Nelson Mandela, well loved all over the world for being a peacemaker. This is not a violent man. He brought people together. And Nelson Mandela was famous for ending apartheid. But even though apartheid itself was ended, and now it's a democratic presence in this realm, and there have been there are different parties have gotten in, and there's been skirmishing for control, and the most radical leftist party that was in there is, I believe, a very liberal party even to today. But there's been not as much done in some respects as the people would have wanted done. That is, change is very slow. So the change that came following Nelson Mandela, he's since passed on. He did retire, I believe it was 1999. But I think it was the ANC, that was the party that came after. And a lot has been done, change has occurred in South Africa, and there's lots of hope and many exciting things going on in education too. I see a lot in the academic journals coming from South Africa, and a lot of wonderful research. There are still problems with poverty, with some groups having a lot more money than the local African people. Johannesburg is still kind of divided up. Really, the north is far more rich and colonial, and the south, Soweto, the ethnic tribal neighborhoods of Soweto, really amazing culture, but a lot of extreme poverty that remains to this day. So South Africa has changed so much, and has changed the region, and has changed the realm. And yet there's still a lot of poverty, and there still is lack of education. Some groups further ahead than others, especially local peoples, African peoples, that remain in extreme poverty and lack of education, and just where they live, and just the shanty towns of Soweto are still there. So there's more to do. And again, we talked a little about Angola. Angola has really extreme rapid growth due to oil, but it hasn't been very smooth for the people. There's been a lot of political angst. And Zimbabwe is one of the poorest, if not the poorest in the realm. Just really tragic. It used to be called Southern Rhodesia, I believe. And Botswana. These are very poor. And so this region has changed quite a bit, but there's still a lot of change that could occur. So, and again, this is the key region for all of Sub-Saharan Africa, and South Africa, the key state. Okay, next time.